Yesterday, we did Durkheim's theory of elementary forms of religion or religious life. Okay. Now, the last topic, that is suicide. And before that, let us try to understand how exactly you should have approached this one. I hope it's visible to all of you. Yes. Which of the following constitute what Durkheim calls as religion and why? And if yes, then what is sacred to these people? Now, see, I told you that when you are studying sociology, you have to, specifically when you are studying Durkheim, you have to rid yourself of the preconceived notions. Okay, that is the first rule. To think like a sociologist, that is the first rule. Okay. So therefore, there is no reason why to not call their practices as what Durkheim would call, amounting to be called as religion. The fact is, ज़्यादा हो गया ये, ये बड़ी प्रॉब्लम होती है पता है. You know, what is the definition of Durkheim? Durkheim's definition of religion? What did he mean by religion? Religion is set of beliefs and practices, nothing else. Set of beliefs and practices related to sacred. Okay, centering around which they constitute a moral community called as church. The fact is, these people have beliefs and practices related to what they consider as sacred to them. Now the question is, what is sacred to them? The problem is, first of all, you need to get rid of the preconceived notion of sacred that you have in your mind. Only then you would be able to understand, okay, why, what are they doing is something which revolves around the notion of sacred and how they form religion out of it. Okay, the fact is, these guys have sacralized sacralized the notion of sovereignty, independence, and the establishment of caliphate. Okay, they want to establish their own independent nation state, and to them, that independent nation state, the idea of which they have in their mind, spans across Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Turkey, what they call as the, you know, caliphate. How the It is their belief that that region, Syria, Turkey, was once ruled by caliphate, and we have to restore it. Are you going to challenge them? Are you going to challenge them? When we have this belief that Lord Ram crossed over Indian Ocean, okay, and Sri Lanka, and Hanuman went there and burned the whole Lanka, all those things, when we have Can someone challenge our notion or beliefs? If we cannot resist or if we cannot stand anyone challenging our beliefs, how and who are you to challenge them? Who is America to challenge them? No one. We have belief, they have belief. Okay, our belief, if you look into the traditional Indian, so-called Indian, in the sense this term does not exist, by the way, only this is a gift of colonial empires to us. However, the conception of Akhand Bharat, if you look into, what is Akhand Bharat? It spans from, the whole of it spans till Afghanistan, covers Nepal as well. Okay, so can anybody challenge it? So if they have sacralized the notion of sovereignty, okay, and they have collectively gathered and they have been conducting rituals. Ritual does not, again, get yourself rid of the preconceived notions of the ritual. Ritual does not mean घंटी बजाना और ऐसे हाथ जोड़ना. Ritual, anything can be ritual. When I invite my friends over birthday party, that is also a ritual. Okay, when we have beer, whiskey, ये सब चल रहा है, ritual. Okay, so these guys also have rituals. What are the rituals? Something like this. Every day they would train, run for 6 hours or 8 hours, carrying these huge weapons all on their shoulders. That is also ritual. When you see the army soldiers of India doing this, you would consider it as normal. When you see these people as doing it, abnormal. Arey, why abnormal? Get yourself rid of the preconceived notions. You are someone from Mars. Okay. So, now tell me, is this not religion? Yes. What is this? The first image is of some ladies. See, I'm Darkhain. I'm Darkhain. Okay. To me, these ladies, you know, around the tree, and those tribal people around the leopard, I mean, I'm not able to differentiate between these two things. I'm Darkhain. I do not know India. I do not know Chipko. I do not know anything. I am someone from Mars. And from Mars, I'm looking at these people. I am not able to differentiate. And nobody is there to help me with these things. Okay. So I have no choice. I would say the tree is their totem. The tree is their totem. And they have sacralized what? They have sacralized the idea of sustainability, because they sustain themselves only because of the fodder or raw material which these forests give to them. They are dependent on these forests or trees, and therefore it is not just an economic relation. It is not just an economic relation. It is more than that. Okay, they are protecting the tree, just like a sister would expect her brother to protect her on the eve of Rakhi. Okay, the relation or the sentiments are very much similar. They are protecting the tree at the cost of their own lives. They are not fearing as if they are dear ones to them, they are very close ones, as if there is a blood relation between the tree and these people. Okay, and therefore, this tree is not just a tree. This tree has become more than that, sacred. Okay, trees, if you look into See, when you go out of your house, obviously you will see many trees. But those trees are profane. All those trees are profane. The moment all you guys start believing that this tree is holy tree and this tree is sacred or this forest is sacred, what will happen? The, the profane objects will turn into sacred. And therefore, in Arunachal Pradesh or in Northeast, we talk about sacred groves. Have you heard this word, sacred groves? GROVES. सुना है? अतिका कुरैशी, हाँ, ठीक है. Sacred groves. What is the meaning of sacred groves? Those groves are just like groves only, but they are sacred to them, and that is why registered by the Indian administration as sacred grove. So we are no one to tell them that you are idiots. Sacred क्या होता है tree में? When we, on the other hand, we ourselves consider people as highly sacred. People tree, banyan tree. Okay, so they can also have their own conception of sacred. So we are no one to say that you are stupid or fool because of their beliefs. Because we also are full of beliefs which are nonsensical. Okay, if we were to evaluate beliefs on scientific standard, all the beliefs are nonsense. So when all the beliefs are beliefs only, there can be no hierarchy in belief that our belief is nice, your belief is idiotic. Beliefs are beliefs only. Okay. So we can never say ISIS is doing anything wrong. They have belief. Their means can be wrong, but their beliefs are not wrong. You cannot say their beliefs are wrong. Their means can be wrong. Okay. Their beliefs are not. What is this? Environmental movements. When you see environmental movements, that is also a religion, collective gathering related to sacred, set of beliefs and practices related to sacred. What is sacred? They have sacralized the idea of environmentalism, conservation, sustainability, limit to the needs, limit to needs, Gandhian principle. All these things have become sacred to them. These ideas have become sacred to them, and sacralizing these ideas, they have coalesced around the totem. And the totem is that earth, the symbol. Okay. Symbol is the earth. Okay. Now, the fact is, when you become IAS officer, you will also have this kind of globe on your table. A small globe on your table you would have. But that globe would be very ordinary to you. I mean, a globe that you would generally ignore. You know, in the offices of bureaucrats or administrators, you would see these are, minimum things that you would often come across. A globe, a stationery, a pen box, okay, a computer, wooden table, okay, a big chamber, and a yellow colored light at the corner of the room with one plant just beside that light, okay, and one very off cream colored sofa, okay, with very British styled table and chair. This is very stereotypical image. You would find this thing everywhere, okay, but on that table, when you find this globe, you do not consider it so important. I mean, that is very natural, normal thing to you because you have been seeing these things since childhood and on the tables of bureaucrats. But suddenly, this globe has become sacred. Suddenly, to these people, even see, basically, until these people had gathered out on the streets, the globe was only profane. Okay. When these people gathered around this object is the center of attraction to everyone because this globe is not just a globe, it is representative of the ideas that these people have agreed upon. Okay, and the ideas are that of limit to needs, environmentalism, sustainability, conservation. Okay, therefore, this is also religion. What is this? I can see collective gathering easily, and collective gathering always have certain set of beliefs. Unless those beliefs are shared by everyone in the gathering, there would be no collective gathering. So collective gathering can happen only if you have collective belief. Think it like this. If I invite 50 or 60 friends, okay, over at my house. Just a second. Okay, so if I invite my friends over, okay, the occasion is, suppose it is birthday party. Okay, now these people would come only if they believe that yes, it is my birthday. Okay, so collective belief is the minimum prerequisite that has to be there for the collective gathering to happen. Okay, in those times, like for example in 2012, Arvind Kejriwal and Anna Hazare movement was running at its peak. And these guys had gone to different colleges, distributed pamphlets to the students. You should be participating in our movement. We are fighting for a large cause. The cause is India against corruption. Okay. And we have identified corrupt people. Participate with us. Okay. Now you did not go to these movements, Ramlila Maidan, because you did not believe that there is any corruption, or you did not believe that me going there would make any change. Okay, let me watch it through television only. Let's see what happens. Okay. But generally, the people who would go there, obviously they believe. Okay. I'm not saying each one of them believe. Some of them might have gone just to have lunch or free का water और ये सब, ठीक है, या फिर ऐश करने या देखने जा क्या बोल रहे हैं, ऐसे भी होते हैं कुछ साइड में एकदम कोने में, ठीक है. But largely people believe that yes, they are fighting for a bigger cause. The cause is that India should be corruption free. We are giving them support. Okay. And while fighting for India against corruption, these people had, Arvind Kejriwal and Anna Hazare had a huge backdrop on this behind on the stage. On the backdrop, they had image of Gandhi, Patel, Nehru. Okay. Basically, the belief of these great personalities, the ideologies of these great personalities, and the cause of these people that they were fighting for, all these things largely had become, representation of the larger idea that was considered as sacred by all the people. And that is why it was collective belief, collective gathering. Similarly, when you see these people, this rainbow color flag is not just a flag with some colors. Okay, it is something more than that. It is sacred to them because it represents the idea of gender equality, human rights, morality. Okay, and they have sacralized these ideas. And this flag is nothing but a totem which represents these sacred ideas around which these people have gathered. And therefore, it is nothing but a religion only. Again, when I say religion, do not think of Ram, Shiv, Hanuman, Parvati. ओके, यही बोल रहा है डरखाई बार बार, क्योंकि वहां जो हम करते हैं और यहां जो हम कर रहे हैं उसमें फर्क कुछ नहीं है. देयर इज नो डिफरेंस. ओके. So let me now come back to our discussion topic. The last topic is suicide. The question is, why Durkheim is studying suicide? What made him study this topic, suicide? Suicide, at first glance, it seems a topic which should be read by psychologists. Okay, it seems like a topic that should be read by psychologists. Why sociologists are studying suicide? Durkheim believed that something that seems to be highly psychological in nature. Okay, I would like to study that topic just to tell to the people that what seems to be personal trouble is actually a public issue. Sociological imagination. Sociological imagination. Durkheim had this sociological imagination. What seems to be highly personal, private incident of one individual committing suicide, something that supposedly should be studied by a psychologist. If I am able to study suicide sociologically, this would be the best opportunity to show this thing to the world, that how come sociology is different from psychology, and how come what seems to be personal trouble is also a public issue. And therefore, the way psychologists would approach suicide and the way a sociologist would approach suicide are two very different approaches. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you something. Why A? A is the name of person committed suicide. This is one question that psychologists can deal with, because I'm talking about one specific person, A. Remember this. Okay. Why Mr. A or Miss A committed suicide can be discussed by or can be studied by psychologists. Okay. And psychologists will say, since you guys know this very well, that psychologists largely talk about internal behavior, in the sense they would seek explanation which is regarded as something that is going inside our brain. Okay, that information, in the sense, they would talk about neuron system, they would talk about impulses, they would talk about anxiety or depression, frustration, these things which cannot be traced outside the individual. These things are there in the individual. These things are running in the brain. Okay. But sociologists do not talk about any incident like that, because sociologists, specifically a person like Durkheim, he would always say that all the things that we see around us are external to all of us. Remember, social fact, external to us and coercive of the actor. Nothing is there in us, everything is external to us. Okay. Okay. So, this is subject matter of psychology. And what is the subject matter of sociology? Now I'm going to tell you something very interesting. How a sociologist would approach suicide. You know, one day, Durkheim studied few articles on suicide. He actually very recently he lost his friend. His friend committed suicide and he was very shocked, very sad. And this sadness made him study suicide. But this is not the only reason why he studied suicide. There are many reasons. Okay. The problem is, when he was studying all the articles on suicide, he came across very different kinds of reasons. Some people were saying suicide is the result of alcoholism. The more you drink alcohol, the more the chances increase of you committing suicide. Okay. And people had written articles on these, research paper on these things to show, it's like, just think like a scientist, one person is there who does not drink alcohol. Okay, that is one variable. Second person, one who consumes alcohol every day. Second group. Now, these two groups I have. Now, I would record the number of suicides which have happened in the country. Okay, and then I would see which of these group have had higher number of suicides. And finally, I come to this conclusion that this one person, okay, or the persons like him who consume alcohol every day, they have higher suicide rate. So, and then therefore I am saying, therefore alcoholism leads to suicide. So this was one study. This study was conducted by SKOG, SKOG. Okay, not so important to us. SKOG. Then there were some other studies also that were going on at that point of time. So people were like, in the winters you commit low suicide. The suicide rate during winters is lower in comparison to suicide rate during summers. Okay, बड़ी अजीब स्टडी है ये क्लाइमेट को लेकर. Okay. One thing is very clear from these two studies. One is attributing cause of suicide to the internal behavior of a man, that is consuming alcohol. Second study, when they talk about climate, they are attributing cause of suicide to something that is external to that one person, which is climate. One thing is very much clear from these two studies. One is attributing cause of suicide to internal, second is to the external, climate change. Okay. Not literal climate change in the sense, weather change basically. Okay. Then there was one more study. Suicide is an act of imitation. Okay. In the sense, I saw someone committing suicide. I saw someone committing suicide. I could not sleep for 3, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days. 8th day, I committed suicide. Okay. When I committed suicide after 8th day, some other person might have seen me committing suicide. And he could not see that he saw someone committing suicide. And he was telling everyone, I saw someone commit, I could not help him. I was so helpless, I was feeling so helpless. And लोग बोल रहे चिल करो तुमको पी लो हो जाओ नहीं I cannot sleep यार I cannot sleep. And next day he also committed suicide. Suicide is an act of imitation that way. Okay. But this is very nonsensical study. Imitation? Imitation, literally imitation. And this person was Gabriel Tard. Okay, he was a psychologist and he believed, and the best example would be I don't know how many of you have heard about this game, Blue Whale. Has anyone heard about this game, Blue Whale? Blue Whale. What was happening in the Blue Whale game? Every day, people were committing suicide when they knew, it very well that whosoever have played this game have committed suicide. Still, they are playing it. Is it not imitation? It's imitation only. Basically, I'm trying to prove Gabriel Tard right, although that is not my duty. Okay. But I just want to tell you through one example. Imagine people playing this game, Pokemon, okay, on their mobile, iPad, trying to find Pokemon, okay, all day and night. जा रहे यहाँ वहाँ मिल गया एक पोकेमॉन, पिकाचू मिल गया, ठीक है, जिगलीपफ मिल गई, ठीक है, कलेक्ट कर लिए, वो पिकाचू मिलते मिलते ट्रक आ गया मार के चले गए तुम्हें, ठीक है, ना पिकाचू रहा ना तुम रहे. So anyhow, this was Gabriel Tard. The fact is, write down one line first. Durkheim believed that suicide, which seems to be highly personal trouble, is actually a public issue. Why? I'll tell you. It's actually a public issue. And he believed that, something is wrong with the society. Something is wrong within the society. That is making people commit suicide. Okay. Something is wrong within the society that is making people commit suicide. Now, so far you know what Durkheim is trying to do. Let us now see what Durkheim did. One day, Durkheim looked at statistics. Statistics, okay. England, France, Denmark. Statistics. In England, he found suicide rate is 67. What is the meaning of suicide rate? Suicide rate simply means number of people committing suicide out of 1 lakh inhabitants. Number of people committing suicide out of 1 lakh inhabitants. Okay. So in England, how many people committed suicide? 67 out of 1 lakh. In France, 135 suicide rate. Okay. You don't have to remember these figures. Durkheim. Okay, so Durkheim in Denmark. Denmark. 275. Now tell me, did you not find anything strange? Out of 1 lakh people in England, 67 committed suicide. Out of 1 lakh people in France, 135 committed suicide. And out of 1 lakh people in Denmark, 275 people committed suicide. And more surprisingly, suicide rate was constant. In the sense, next year also in Denmark, these many people only committed suicide. Next year also in France, only these many. In England, only these many people. Even next year, same figure. Even next year, same. Suicide rate is constant. Okay. Now, as you guys know very well, it is the curiosity inside a human being which makes him different from the rest. Okay. This is what Albert Einstein also said. I'm not special person, I'm just curious. And Durkheim was also very curious. Durkheim said, why is it that Denmark has such a high suicide rate? A natural question coming to any person looking at this statistics. अब कुछ लोग को नहीं आया तो नहीं आया भाई, जिसको आ गया वो बन गया बड़ा, ठीक है. So Durkheim had this curiosity why Denmark has such high suicide. Second curiosity, why suicide rate is constant every year. Okay. And third, he also found one more thing, that in these countries, let us take for example Denmark. If Denmark consists of men, women, whites, blacks, married, single, he found single people always had suicide rate higher than married. Okay. What was this? Men, yes. Men had higher suicide rate than women. Blacks had higher suicide rate than whites. This is also making him curious. Why is it like that? That one group of people committing suicide rate or having suicide rate higher than another set of people. So the third question that was in his mind was, why suicide rate varies from one group to another group. These three questions are very important. Okay. Because only these three questions made him pioneer of suicide in sociology. Okay. Remember this thing very well. Why suicide rate remains constant within a country? Why suicide rate varies from one group to another group within a country? And why suicide rate varied across the countries? क्या बात है? Across the countries. बन गया research question. This was his research question. Why suicide rate varied across the countries? Why suicide rate is constant within a country? Why suicide rate varies from one group to another group within a country? ओके अब इसका जवाब कैसे दिया है उसने? One thing he found out very easily. Denmark at that point of time was industrializing and urbanizing at a very rapid speed. Very rapid speed. Okay. More rapid than England. Denmark. Okay. And then he found. Then he compared basically. The countries which had not witnessed rapid industrialization or gradual industrialization only, which the countries which had only gradual industrialization did not have so much of suicide rate in comparison to a country which had sudden rapid industrialization or urbanization. I will tell you exactly what do I mean by this. For example, is there anyone from Bangalore? Bangalore. Rajshri. Abhinav Soni. Do you know that Bangalore is called as India's side city? You did not know this? Okay, now you know this. And who called Bangalore India's suicide city? Do you know this? Ramchandra Guha. Ramchandra Guha, who's also Bangalorean. Okay. Ramchandra Guha is a very big fan of Emil Durkheim. And he always says that we need Indian Durkheim, we need Indian Durkheim. Ramchandra Guha has also been a student of sociology. He has studied Andre Bete, Karl Marx, Emil Durkheim, everything. Okay. But why? The question is why Bangalore is India's suicide city. You know, you guys know this very well, that the kind of rapid urbanization or industrialization that Bangalore witnessed in comparison to any other city or village is quite different. Okay, Bangalore is considered not just a city, it is considered as global city by a scholar, Saskia Sasan. It is a global city. Okay, global city. There are two, three global cities in India. Okay, one is Mumbai, second is Bangalore. Delhi is not a global city. Okay, Mumbai, Bangalore, the commercial hubs basically. Okay, because their timeline or the whole schedule of the city is very much in sync with the time routine of New York or England. Okay, the stock market and all those commercial hub, IT infrastructure, all those software companies, all those companies have their hub in Bangalore. So therefore there has to be sync, and therefore they have culture of night, what do you call it, क्या बोलते हैं उसको, night, not able to recall that word, night life, sorry, night life. Okay, because they are working 24/7, that is why they have nightlife. Okay, and why do they have to work 24/7? Basically, in the sense, the city lives 24/7. City does not sleep. In the sense, when you come to your home at by 8 p.m., another lot of people are going to their offices at 8 p.m. Okay, city never sleeps that way. Now the problem is, you know, I'm just telling you this example so that it becomes easier for you. Okay. So, like for example, if I'm in Bangalore and I'm feeling very happy that I got a job in ZS or you know any other consultancy firm like Price Waterhouse Cooper, okay, something like that. The fact is, the fact is that the more I am into these things, okay, the more I'm happy about being settled in these IT firms, the more detached I am going to get from the traditional bonds. Okay, in the sense, when you start earning lot of money, what happens? You start losing your friends. Have you ever experienced this thing? Okay, you may not have experienced this, but one day you will. One day you will. When you start getting busy in your life, I'm busy, you start losing your connections, at least your old connections. Okay, you start losing your friends. Even you do not even talk to your mother or father. Okay, this is the condition that individual suffers, and people in that city are victim of mental depression, anxiety, heart disease, cardiovascular disease, because the kind of food that they are having in Bangalore, not just in Bangalore, in fact, in everywhere this is happening, even in Gurgaon, fast food culture is growing like anything with the rise of these hubs. Because these hubs and the fast food joints, both of them are allies to each other. They are friends. Why they are friends to each other? Fast food, in the sense, eat it fast and go back to work. Okay. In the sense, fast food promotes the working culture only. In the sense, time is money. So you do not have a lot of time to wait for dal makhni and roti to come. Okay, it will take 1 hour. Best would be to have 2-minute burgers, 3-minute pizza, go back to your work as soon as possible, because work is important, time is money. So fast food is one hub that is somehow in cordial relation with the IT firms. And what happens when you are 24/7 leading this kind of life, you have lost your connections, you have become fat, eating fast food only, okay, mental depression, anxiety, सुसाइड तो होना ही है, सुसाइड होना ही है. And Bangalore has witnessed a lot of suicides. And this is not just with Bangalore, there are many other things also which I'll tell you. Anyhow, let me come back to this question. One thing you must have realized with that example is that Durkheim believes the more you lose integration, the more the more industrialization happens, the more rapidly urbanization happens, the more weaker the bonds or the integration force will be. Are you getting this point? Okay. Rapidly, the more rapid, basically, what I'm trying to say is rapid industrialization or urbanization leads to weakening of social cohesion or loss of integration. Now tell me, does it not look like a law? Okay, when I ask you this question, does it not look like a law? Don't think about law of gravitation, okay, law of planetary motion. वैसा लॉ तो है नहीं है. अरे लॉ लॉ ही होता है. Law, you cannot say that one law is supreme, other laws are not so supreme. Law is law. There cannot be hierarchy of law. Okay. Now, this was happening in Denmark. Understood? What is happening to Bangalore today, that was happening to Denmark in those times. Rapid industrialization and urbanization, fast food culture and all those things, mental anxiety, depression, all those things actually were the result of the larger force. Basically, when you are saying that he was the victim of mental anxiety, how come he became victim of mental anxiety? What is the larger force? And why only he? There are many other people like him who are victim of the same mental anxiety. What is happening with the society? Something is wrong with the society, not with these individuals. I told you, if you remember, if you do not get job, in a city of 1 lakh people, if one person does not get job, that one person may be, accused of something, or maybe, he may be labeled as someone who is not working so hard. But in a city of 1 lakh people, if 50,000 are unemployed, you cannot call out on all the 50,000 people as lazy or idiots. Something is wrong with the society. So when suicide rate increase, problem is not with the individual, something is wrong with the society. Okay. And what was something wrong with the society? With the rapid industrialization, the social cohesion had gotten weakened. The forces of integration had gotten weakened. Just think like this. When you start earning a lot of money, what happens? You start sitting with the elites. Okay. Now you would no longer go to Murthal ka dhaba. Okay. Now you would go to Taj Hotel. Okay. Han Market. You would not drink chai. You would drink cold coffee. Anything or whiskey. Okay. अभी कल तक चाय पी रहे थे, अचानक कोल्ड कॉफी, whiskey. This is something that happens. Okay. Now, was it because of me? Was it because of that person only? Something is wrong with his mind or her mind? Arey, the larger force is causing us to do these things. Okay. Someone has to study these larger force. Durkheim said, I will study, don't worry. Tum peete raho apna. Okay. So, what Durkheim did? Third question I have addressed. Okay. Second question is why suicide rate varies across the groups. Across the groups. What did Durkheim do? Durkheim went to police stations. Now comes the real study of Durkheim. Okay. One fine day, I have answered third question. Okay, he had 3 questions in his mind. Remember, I have answered first question basically. First question: why Denmark had higher suicide rate than any other country? Okay. Now comes the second question. Third question: why suicide rate varies across the group? This is what I am writing is with reference to the third question. Okay. Durkheim went to police station one day. and he collected data of all the people who committed suicide. Okay, first step. Collection of data. Remember, his research question is why suicide rate varies across the group, across the groups within a society. Okay, this is his research question. Consider this research question just like that. Why apple fell from the tree? There is no difference between these two questions. Both are questions that are aimed at understanding the cause behind the phenomena. Okay. Why suicide rate varies across the groups within a society? What is the first step that we do? We identify the problem and then we start collecting data. Okay. Then we start collecting data. And remember, suicide is that study where Durkheim literally applied scientific method. In nowhere else would you see Durkheim applying scientific method in such a fashion. Generally, when you talk about positivism, okay, I'll deal with these questions also when I'm done with this topic today. Positivism, structural functionalism. Where is the structural functionalist Durkheim? Where is the positivist Durkheim? Okay, which topic would you label as structural functionalist or positivist? These are also some of the important questions that I'll deal with at the end of the day. Okay. First is collection of data. He collected data from police stations. After collection of the data, what he did? He classified. Classification of data. Okay. He had collected data of millions of people from different police stations. What is the one thing? See, what is that one thing that you do when you get suppose you get 5,000 rupees in your hand right now? What is the first thing that you are going to do? You will start arranging the 5,000 rupees by different notes. 100 rupees का नोट अलग रखोगे, 500 का अलग रखोगे, 2000 का अलग करते हो ना यही. So you collect data first and then you classify it. Okay, so Durkheim is also making convenient. Okay, making it convenient. So he is classifying. How did he classify these number of suicides? He classified according to age, gender, religion, marital status. And many other variables also, but not so important. These are the major factors. Okay. He found that in terms of age, elderly committing suicide rate or having suicide rate higher than young ones. This is what he found after classification clearly. Okay. He found male had suicide rate higher than female. He found Protestants had suicide rate higher than Catholics. He found single people had suicide rate higher than married. This is what he found. Okay. Now, obviously, the question would come to our minds naturally. Something must be special about being married. Something must be special about being Catholic. Something must be special about being female. Something must be special about being young ones that we commit suicide in comparison to these unspecial people who commit suicide. I mean, this is what Durkheim is thinking like. Okay, something must be special about married people that they do not commit suicide. What is special about married people? The force of integration is so high. Okay, tomorrow if you like, for example, most of the criminals who commit any kind of crime which is registered or defined as crime in India, you would find most of them are single or divorcee. Okay, out of 100, hardly 5 of them would be married. 95 or most of them are either divorcee or single. Okay, because what is their family? To them, family is not a wife or children. The family is gang, criminal gang. Criminal gang becomes family to them. They sit, dine, eat with them, with that yellow 10 rupees light, okay, hanging on the ceiling, playing carom board every day with Tash. Okay, this is what their family is. Okay. Catholics. What is so special about Catholics? That suicide rate is lower in Catholics in comparison to Protestants. Do you know one thing? Catholicism considers suicide as sin. Sin, paap hai ye paap. If you commit suicide, it is a paap. If you commit suicide, you would never go to heaven. If you are given these kind of teachings, would you ever commit suicide? No, because you want to go to heaven. So Catholics are teaching these things to people. Okay. Protestants, on the other hand, they are so free, Protestants people, in the sense they are free to interpret Christianity in their own way. Nothing is binding them. Everyone is free. You know, have you heard about this phase, very great phase in history? Something that I will teach you when I'll teach you Max Weber. Okay, people wrote learn many of those things, but the fact is that there was a very great period in the history of medieval Europe that was a period of Reformation. Okay, generally we talk about Renaissance, and then after Renaissance we write and Reformation. These two words seem very boring to us. Okay, first is extremely boring, second obviously gets ignored. Okay, so Reformation we never get to study. What is Reformation? But it was only because of the reforms in the Christianity that Protestantism got developed. Protestantism did not exist before Reformation. It is a sect. Sect. Like for example, there was a time when Hinayan Buddhism never existed. There was a time. Only Buddha existed and followers of Buddha existed. Gradually, after a point of time, Mahayana came, Vajrayana came. So similarly, Christianity only existed, Jesus Christ existed, and followers of Jesus Christ. Gradually, after some point in time, Protestant, they came into existence. Okay, and Protestants were so against these ideas of heaven and all those things that they, like for example, people like John Calvin, Martin Luther. Okay, these were those people who protested against the church, the Catholic class, that you guys are teaching false things to the masses. Okay, you are doing this to make your money. Okay, to subjugate them to your wills and wishes, nothing else. And this is something that was also being done at Golden Temple. Okay, when this whole case, Bhindranwala case happened, before that, this is something that was happening in Golden Temple. In the name of religion, what was happening? They had established enterprise in the Golden Temple. Okay. So, Protestants are those people basically who are free to interpret religion in their own way. Free. When you are free to interpret in your own way, what will happen? The bond of integration will be highly low. Nothing is integrating you. When all of you believe that we have descended from Brahma, there is no issue. Integration is high. When you say, no, Brahma does not exist, this is myth. Okay, this is Brahminical myth. No, this is stupid conventional beliefs. Okay, and some of the people say, no, no, he exists. What will happen? You will fight only all the time. So, if you do not share collective belief, the bond of integration will be low and it makes you vulnerable to commit suicide rate or commit suicide more than Catholics. Simple. Why female had lower suicide rate in comparison to male? What is that one thing which binds women to something? But something that Durkheim found. Durkheim found that in those days, if you remember, the concept of women at the workplace was not so dominant idea. Women were largely confined to houses, okay, private sphere, what we call as, okay. This was sexual division of labor. Okay. Men used to go to the workplaces, women would wait for them to come over to house and to feed them something and then make them sleep. Okay. And women, unlike that man who is working at the workplace, women was having good time with her children. Okay, he was happy. He had neighbor people to talk to. Okay, have discussion over many things. Okay, man on the other hand, he was getting abuses from his seniors. अबे तुम किसी काम के नहीं निकलो, ठीक है, यहाँ से तुम्हारे यहाँ काम ही नहीं है, तुमको एक काम दिया ढंग से वो भी नहीं कर पाए तुम. Okay. And woman on the other hand, she is watching TV, having fun time with her children. He is happy. और ये आदमी आ रहा है परेशान होके, झगड़ा ही होता है दोनों के बीच में. Okay. Anyhow, the fact is, women are very much integrated. Okay. The bond of integration, according to Durkheim, is very high in comparison to the men who are victim of the pressure, industrial pressures, okay, or the work system, exploitation at the workplace. You must have done a project with lot of dedication and you anticipated that you would get promotion in exchange of that work. You also anticipated that you would get bonus. Nothing happened. Okay. Capitalism actually made you work hard for it, but it did not give you anything in return. Okay. Because capitalism runs on profit. If profit is shared by everyone, shared to everyone, how would it sustain itself? So basically, men were the victim of low force of integration, and where female had higher force of integration. Young ones in comparison to elderly. Why young ones commit suicide? In a low number in comparison to elderly. You look at the treatment that we give to our elderlies. Okay, we do not talk to them. There are many people who do not even know who their grandfather or grandmother is. Okay, and imagine elderly person who wants to cross the road, nobody is helping him. Okay, he's sitting idle in his home all day and night, nobody is talking to him. Would he ever feel that he is wanted by anyone? The bond of integration would be so low. He would never feel or she would never feel that he or she are wanted in this place or that place. On the other hand, young people, they have mobile phones, people to talk to, playing games. Okay, कौन सी गेम है ये तुम लोग की, नाम भी मेरे को नहीं याद है इस गेम का, बैटल ग्राउंड, पबजी. Okay, having social networking sites, uploading something, chatting with people, okay, going out for party, unlike these people who are sitting idle, someone who have no one to talk to. Obviously, the bond of integration is highly low in comparison to young people who are highly integrated. Simple. Okay. And he also found, Durkheim also found that during I were to talk anything like that, national status. The national status, if you talk about what do we mean by national status, in the sense whether we have peacetime or wartime running in the country. Peacetime or wartime. During peacetime, he found people committed suicide higher than the times when we had war. This is very strange observation. During wartime, people commit low suicide, but in peacetime, higher suicide is there. How come? That is very strange. When the nation is at war with another nation, think about think about Israel Palestine, or think about the force of integration that Israeli people share right now. Israel is right at the middle of volcano. Okay, geographically, if you see, it is surrounded by all the people who Israel have gone into a war with at one or the other time. 1967 Arab Israel war. Okay, it was all about Israel versus Lebanon, Egypt, or many countries. Okay, and it has been fighting since then only. Now think of the bond these people, the Israeli people, would be having. Okay, how much connected they must be feeling to the state, that we will do anything for you because you have been protecting us for so long. Okay, and this is also one of the reason, Israeli people छोटे से हैं वो. In fact, if you look into the population of Israel, it is even smaller than Delhi. Delhi has bigger population than Israel. Israel is a nation state and Delhi is a city. Okay, and this nation state has produced maximum Nobel Prize winners. This nation state has produced best scientific experts in different fields. It has also produced the most finest of the defense equipments that India borrow from it. Not just India, USA. Agricultural equipments, if you look into the kind of technology that they have achieved in agriculture sector, drip irrigation, such a small thing, such a small technology, we have borrowed from Israel. Okay. And many other technology like AVAX, or the concept like Iron Dome. Okay, Iron Dome is something which prevents all the incoming missiles that are going to strike Israel. Something of that sort we have also installed. Okay, so the fact is, during wartime, the citizens feel highly integrated with the nation. They want their nation to overpower another nation, and the bond of integration would be so high. During peacetime, nothing is binding them as such. Okay, and that is why suicide rate in comparison to peacetime would be lower. Okay, so this was all about their crime. Now, I'm going to show you something now. Okay, very important thing. When a scientist looks at data, the things are not so easy. The things are not so easy as it seems to us. Okay. When Durkheim saw male committing more suicide than female, you know, the one question that struck his mind was, is there something wrong with the social location of males, in the sense, is there something wrong with the social force itself being male, okay, being working, or is there something wrong with some other thing that I am not able to identify? Basically, what is his question? What is the question that is going on in his mind? Okay, a question that is not applicable only to gender but to all other variables. The question is, we say male committing suicide higher than female, but the fact is, and you know this very well, when I wrote, I don't know why did you not ask me this question? I'm also surprised. I said Protestants suicide rate higher than Catholics. Okay, tell me one thing. Are these two different people? हाँ, male is some other person, Protestant is some other person. ऐसा तो होता नहीं है. Okay, भाई Protestant is a male. It could be a female also. ये तो कोई मजा नहीं आया. ठीक है. And Durkheim knew this. ऐसा नहीं कि Durkheim बेवकूफ है. Durkheim knew that we have to go deep into this data because this is obvious. And the classification was made only for convenience. Remember this thing. That was only for convenience. Okay. Now, you have this thing in your mind. The next step after classification of data is correlation and causation. After classification of data, next step is correlation and causation. What do we mean by correlation? When I say male suicide rate higher than female, Protestants higher than Catholics, okay, and I'm talking about the reason being force of integration, okay, high or low, whatever that may be. The question is, are these things correlated or directly cause and effect, or is there any direct cause and effect? Do you understand the meaning of correlation and causation? These are two different words, okay. Correlation means somehow related, but not directly being a cause of that thing, okay. Like for example, if you start gaining weight, okay, if you start gaining weight and someone tells you it is because you are having fast food every day, okay, there is no cause effect between these. It's a correlation, in the sense it is related to that person's increase in weight, but there is no direct cause and effect. It is not like that you start the moment you eat burger, next moment you have increase in weight. डायरेक्ट कॉज इफेक्ट होता नहीं है. ऐसा होता तो आप जैसे ही बर्गर खाओ उसी टाइम 2 किलो आपका बढ़ जाना चाहिए. ओके, correlations. There must be some other thing like you may not be having proper sleep, okay, or some other disorder, or your metabolism is not so strong. Many other factors. Okay, when you have many other factors, many multiple factors, there can be no single cause effect relation, monocausal. Okay. So, when Durkheim says Protestants having suicide rate higher than Catholics because of force of integration being low in Protestants, there cannot be such simple cause effect relation between these two. Okay, there could be some other factor. It's not that being a Protestant someone who is free to interpret religion. This was one of the factor. This is the factor that led me to commit suicide. I mean, no, ये वो बात नहीं बन रही. Okay. So basically, what Durkheim did, write down one line. Durkheim believed here only. Durkheim believed that in social world, direct cause effect cannot be established. In social world, direct cause effect cannot be established. And therefore, we have to use multivariate analysis. Therefore, we have to use multivariate. Now what is this multivariate? Multivariate analysis. Okay, multivariate analysis. In the sense, multiple variables. You have to talk about multiple variables. You cannot simply talk about one variable being man or being gender. In the sense, gender is one variable, religion is another variable. Okay, age is another variable. Okay, and we have to take into consideration multiple variables before we draw an effective relation. We cannot talk about one variable and its relation with suicide rate. Okay, now what is multivariate analysis? Let me tell you like this. When unnatural scientists conduct experiments, they keep few things constant. They assume few things, keeping few things constant. The effect of this is very much like that on this, something like this. They say, keeping pressure or volume constant, okay, something like that. You would always see them talking like this. ये चीज को कांस्टेंट रख कर अगर हम मान लें ये चीज वैसी ही रहेगी तो फिर उसका ये रिलेशन रहेगा. ओके, व्हाट इज मल्टीवेरिएट एनालिसिस नाउ? I see Protestants committing suicide rate higher than Catholics. Now the question is why? Is it because all of them are male? Because you told me male committed suicide rate higher than female. Okay. Or is it because all of them are elderly? They could be elderly Protestants because elderly committed more suicide than youngs. Who are these Protestants? When you say Protestant, what do you mean by Protestant? What is the composition of this Protestant? Okay. So basically, what is Durkheim doing? What is the counter that Durkheim giving to these people? Durkheim is saying that we can do one thing. Let us try to write like this: Protestant working class, Catholics working class. Okay, I have elaborated now. I have not written only Protestants. I have written Protestant working class, Catholics working class. Okay. Now, if I find Catholics working class suicide rate higher than Protestant working class, if I find a reverse relation, what does it show? Class being constant. Okay, let me explain you like this. Let me explain you like this. I have drawn one category here. Let me also draw one more category. Protestants Men, Catholic men. Okay, this is one category. Okay, now one more category. Protestant. Okay, I'll try to make things as complicated as possible right now. Protestant, working class, male. Okay, and then Protestant, working class, female. Okay, let us complicate things. Sometimes they should be complicated also. Okay. I have added up all the different variables. Okay, and then made a new categories. Okay. Now, if you compare Protestant working class male with Protestant working class female, okay, and if by chance Protestant working class female has higher suicide rate than Protestant working class male, what does it show? What does it show? If Protestant working class female has higher suicide rate than Protestant working class male, female, yes. It shows clearly that if we keep everything constant, in the sense Protestant category constant in both of them, working class category constant in both of them, if we keep those things constant, it clearly shows female is coming out as the one having higher suicide rate than male. Which female? Protestant female. Which Protestant female? Working class Protestant female. Are you, and what did I conclude here? Male having higher suicide rate than female. Now, are you trying to understand what I am doing here? That if we go deeper into social compositions, we would come out with exact and precise information as to which Protestant or which female or which male is actually having higher suicide rate or lower suicide rate than any other male, female or Protestant. Got it? हाँ, ठीक है, बट ये हमको नहीं करना है वहां पर, बट हमको पता होना चाहिए. वी शुड नो दैट डर्कहाइम डिड दिस. वी शुड नो दिस. डर्कहाइम डिड दिस. ओके. So after correlation causation, basically he drew multivariate analysis, he made multivariate analysis. Okay, and finally after all the analysis he came up with one law of human behavior, that is the here Durkheim is going to give the verdict based on law. After all the reading, extensive study, all the multivariate analysis, to do multivariate analysis at that point of time when we did not have computers is a very tough task. He spent nearly 5 or 6 years, nearly 5-6 years in doing this. Okay, something that could be done today in one day. आज वो सेम चीज एक दिन में हो जाएगी, ठीक है, मे भी शायद 10 मिनट में हो जाए. उसने वो किया उस टाइम. And only after that extensive study he could say that suicide rate first law, suicide rate increase with economic boom or bust, which means sudden change in the economy, something that after the study of Denmark he found. Okay. And it was not just that he studied Durkheim, he studied Denmark and then he said this happens. He saw the same pattern in different countries also. Okay, and then only he could come up with this law. Suicide rate increases with economic boom or bust. Second law that he came up was suicide rate increases with decrease in social cohesion. Right or wrong? Suicide rate increases with decrease in social cohesion. Okay. These are the two laws that Durkheim has developed after all that extensive study. Okay. Now, let us try to study another aspect of suicide. Types of suicide. Types of suicide. He has also formed a typology to describe which kind of suicide you have done. Okay, suicide also have multiple types. Durkheim talks about see this y-axis. In the y-axis, okay, now he is trying to be as scientific as possible. Okay, drawing x and y-axis also. Okay. ठीक है, चलो कोशिश तो कर रहे हैं लड़का, ये देखते हैं कहाँ चल जाते हैं. In the y-axis is talking about integration. In the y-axis, integration force is there. In the x-axis, regulation force is there. What is the meaning of this? I'll tell you. Integration force on y-axis, regulation force on x-axis. The person who feels high integration, he would be here, because in the y-axis we have integration force, highest integration here, lowest integration here, highest regulation here, lowest regulation here. ठीक है, बीच में तो सब वही है, range. Okay. The one who are highly integrated, if they commit suicide, okay, remember, you are highly integrated does not mean that you do not commit suicide. Only that your rate of suicide will be lower than someone who is lowly integrated. Remember this thing forever in your life. Okay. The one who are highly integrated, they also if commit suicide, the type of suicide that they have committed is called as altruistic suicide. The type of people the type of suicide these people commit who feel very low integration, that is called as egoistic. Right. Okay. Then there is a force called as regulation. The one who feel highly regulated. I'll tell you the meaning of that. Okay, highly regulated in the sense controlled. Regulated means controlled. See, let me tell you one example. Have you seen that movie शाहरुख खान की डर? नहीं, ये नहीं देखी होगी शायद किसी ने, but very classic movie. डर. डर is that movie where Shahrukh Khan is obsessed. Obsessed. He's not in love. He calls it love. Highly obsessed with Juhi Chawla. Okay. So much obsessed that he wants to have her at any cost, even at the cost of her, or even at the cost of her life, or even his life. So much obsessed he is. Okay. पागल हो गया था वो, पागल. But do you know, Juhi Chawla, he was feeling so much controlled by him. इतना परेशान करता था वो उसको, शाहरुख खान. He was feeling so much regulated. When you know, generally you will see some girls would say, no, we want someone who takes a lot of care of us, someone who would love us. Okay, but when someone starts loving them, and when they would they would start feeling controlled, वो obsession का जो चल जाता है, तो फिर the girl would start feeling controlled. मतलब किसी से बाहर जा रही हूँ मिलने तो भी नहीं, रोक देगा वो, वहां नहीं जाओगे, उन लड़कों के साथ नहीं जाओगे, उस लड़की के साथ बात नहीं करोगे. कंट्रोल फील नहीं करेगी लड़की की, करेगी, डेफिनेटली करेगी. ही वुड फील कि मैं कहां फंस गई. हाईली रेगुलेटेड शी वुड फील. एंड देयर आर सम पीपल हु डू नॉट फील एनी कंट्रोल एट ऑल. एंड व्हेन यू डू नॉट फील एनी कंट्रोल ना, तो भी फिर लगता है हम जी क्यों रहे हैं. इफ यू डू नॉट गेट एनी कॉल फ्रॉम योर मदर फादर फॉर 1 month, you will feel that इनको कुछ फिर फर्क वर्क है कि नहीं, मतलब क्या कुछ चिंता विंता है कि नहीं मेरी. ओके. So when the people who are highly regulated, when they commit suicide, when Juhi Chawla would commit suicide, it would be called as fatalistic. Okay. And people who do not get call from their parents, or no, who has no one to ask them to about anything, okay, if they commit suicide, that category would be anomic suicide. Now what are the examples of these? Okay. And what is the force of integration regulation? Write down one line. Durkheim believed that rapid social change has had an influence on the forces of integration and regulation both. Has had an influence on the forces of integration and regulation both. Okay. Let me talk about, and write down one more line. Durkheim classified a typology of suicide, or he developed a typology of suicide according to the changes in the force of integration and regulation. According to the changes in the force of integration and regulation. Okay. Now, first is altruistic suicide. Altruistic suicide. They are those people who feel highly integrated. Highly integrated. Integrated with what? Integrated with anyone. With their family members, with the nation, with the community that they belong to. Integration in the sense should be very high. Okay. to anyone outside of you, basically. Okay, imagine in the World War when Japanese kamikaze fighter jets, they knew they will never come back when they tried to fly to Pearl Harbor. They knew they might never come back. Japanese kamikaze fighter jets. Okay. Still they went there because they were highly integrated with Japanese nationalism. It was the spirit of Japanese nationalism that they were fighting for. The love for nation did not stop them from going to America and dropping bombs on Pearl Harbor, knowing the fact that they would never come back. Okay, America भी छोड़ेगा नहीं उनको फिर. Think about Indian army soldiers when they are given instructions to go at war with Pakistan or to have a secret operation. Think about IB or RAW agents when they have to have a secret operations. They are doing all those things at the cost of their lives, and they know they might lose their life. They know this very well, and they are ready to do that also because this is what is expected from them. If you are losing your life, not a big deal. This is what you are, because you are no one. The nation is bigger. Okay, you have to fight for nation. You are just a soldier. Okay, fighting for the nation is something that is more important. Okay, if these people lose their lives, knowing the fact that they might, is this not suicide? If you know, see, if I know that if I consume methyl cyanide, knowing the fact consuming this may cause my life, and still if I consume, is this not suicide? So if I join army, knowing the fact that I may lose my life one day, and still I join, and if I lose my life, that is also suicide. Okay, people would call it martyrdom, that is okay, but suicide तो है ही. Martyrdom is तो बाद में आता है, martyrdom. Okay. Altruistic suicide. Altruistic suicide is the one committed by the people, highly integrated to community, nation, okay, etc. Community in the sense anything. Think about the ISIS people. ISIS people. When you join the force of ISIS, you know you may lose your life. But the larger force, the larger cause is jihad or establishment of caliphate. Okay, that is what they are fighting for. And if they lose their life, that is altruistic suicide. Okay, they were highly integrated with the larger cause. Okay. Let me talk about egoistic suicide. These are those people who do not feel integrated. Do not feel integrated. Think about elderlies at your home. They do not feel integrated. Okay. So if they lose their lives, obviously that would be considered as egoistic suicide. They lose their life in the sense if they commit suicide. That type of suicide would be known as egoistic suicide. Okay. Elderly or anyone who does not feel integrated. Think about that person. You know, you must have heard about this report many times. You know, it comes in IITs, you know, every year. 10 students commit suicide, 20 commit suicide, something like this. Okay. They are the ones who do not feel integrated with the system. Okay. They are the ones who feel harassed, discriminated at IITs. And when they feel this, they commit suicide. And their suicide is egoistic because they do not feel integrated with the university, with the administration. Okay. Rohit Vemula case. Yes, Rohit Vemula. Okay. You can write that. Okay. Committed by people lowly integrated. Lowly integrated to their community, nation, university, whatever that may be. Okay. To the group basically, outside of them. Now, was Karunesh Maurya can Sushant can उठ जाओ सुशांत सिंह राजपूत से अब उठ जाओ 2 साल हो गए हैं उसको छोड़ दो देखो why I'm saying this you will realize this when we will read the criticism of Erkhain then you will get to know that the very idea of applying these theories to one individual case is not correct. Not correct. In fact, Rohit Vemula is also one example that I should not tell you. Okay. In these cases, now we should always talk about groups. We should not be talking about individuals. Okay. So Rohit Vemula as a singular case should be avoided. You should only talk about students at IITs. Okay. A Dalit student at IITs. You should not be talking about name. Okay. Groups. Fatalistic suicide is committed by those people who feel highly regulated, controlled. Think about the relation between master and slave. A slave is someone who is highly controlled by the masters. Slave does not feel any freedom. Highly controlled and regulated. Each and every movement. In fact, the wife of slave is also owned by the master. If you know about slavery system, something that I will teach you, you will get to know that even the wife and children were the properties of the masters. The slave's wife and children were the property of masters. This was the kind of slavery regime that those systems had. Okay. Think about those people who escape their home, what we call as escapade. In the sense, they escape their home because they are in love with each other and their parents are not allowing them to get married to each other. So they escape their home. We call it escapade. Now the fact is they escape their home and they stand at the edge of that waterfall. Okay. जिएंगे साथ में तो मरेंगे भी साथ में ही ठीक है अलग अलग नहीं मरेंगे हम चलो पहले तुम नहीं पहले ठीक है अब दोनों गए why did they commit suicide they were feeling highly controlled by this life this world is not made for us we will love in the heaven fatalistic suicide okay anomic suicide anomic suicide is the one basically it happens as a result of very low regulation very lowly regulated a group is okay. What are the examples? See, think about farmers or any marginalized or deprived section of society. And remember one more thing, these are those suicides which happen as a result of rapid change. When rapid change happens, the integration and regulation, both the forces are at its lowest. Okay. When rapid change happens, both the force of integration and regulation are at its lowest. Okay. With rapid change, you become billionaire. Think about Kaun Banega Crorepati, that person who had won 5 crore rupees. Next day, divorce. Okay, not next day, literally, एक महीने बाद divorce हो गया था. Okay. And are, when you have attained a celebrity status, imagine like this, when you have attained a celebrity status and you basically, this is nothing but social climber. These are social climbers in the sense overnight they become, you know, paise wala, overnight. And when you overnight become paise wala, you are mad. You do not realize what is right, what is wrong. Okay, ऐसे फेंकोगे पैसा सबको, ठीक है? मतलब your life changes drastically. The people who you are going to sit with, they are also very different now. Okay. And in this whole scenario, when you do not feel integrated with anyone, only the money is money, power, and the people who have money or the contacts. You are integrated only with those people. All the old connections of integration, traditional integration force have gotten weakened. In that scenario, you would not find anyone even controlling you. You're free to go anywhere. Okay. Free to do anything that you want. You may even play gambling, casino. Okay. You may even lose all the money. You may even die there itself. No need to come back home. Okay. When you feel these kind of things, you automatically feel lowly regulated. Think about examples. Write down one example. Overnight, social climbers. Overnight, social climbers. ओके, जो एक रात में पैसा बना लेते हैं, ठीक है? होता यही उनके साथ. They lose everything also very as rapidly as they gained everything. Okay. Low regulation. Oh, social climbers, overnight social climbers. Second, marginalized groups who do not feel, who do not feel who do not feel any sort of any sort of regulatory, who do not feel any sort of regulatory protocol, who do not feel any sort of regulatory protocol established for their concerns. Established for their concerns. Just think about those farmers who are exploited every day by money lenders, but government does not have any bill to counter the money lenders. Government does not have any act to counter or to regulate the activities of money lenders. What will happen? These farmers will then be committing suicide. Okay, because the farmers are the victim of government not regulating money lender or any other association that is exploiting the farmers, which is resulting in farmer not feeling integrated with the state. I mean, these things, although When Durkheim talks about integration regulation, he has broken these things like this, that high integration, high regulation, low regulation. But the fact is, when I will teach you criticism of Durkheim, suicide, you will realize that these things are not mutually exclusive. In the sense, it is not that if you are victim of high integration, there is no sense of regulation high or low there. There may be there, but Durkheim, when he studies them as if they are mutually exclusive category, as if you are either highly integrated or highly regulated. You cannot be both. I mean, in social world, there cannot be maths like this. Okay, so there is a criticism for the similar reasons. Okay, so this was all about Durkheim's theory on suicide. Okay. The topic on suicide is over. In conclusion, why suicide rate is constant? Yes, I'll tell you. In conclusion, the study on the study on suicide, the study on suicide clearly established, clearly established suicide as a social fact. Clearly established suicide as a social fact. The suicide rate, full stop, the suicide rate is something, the suicide rate is something that is not in the hands of individuals and remains either constant. Suicide rate is something that is not in the hands of individual and remains either constant or increases with the degree of industrialization. This theory, this theory paved the way for, this theory paved the way for, यानी रास्ता बना दिया. This theory paved the way for application of scientific methodology to the study of social phenomena. Application of scientific methodology to the study of social phenomena. Especially when Durkheim developed law of human behavior. Especially when Durkheim developed a law for human behavior, law of human behavior. Okay. This was regarded as a milestone in positivist psychology. This was regarded as milestone in positivist sociology. Positivist sociology. Okay. Now the question is, why suicide rate is constant? Suicide rate across different groups of people but within same society remains constant, in the sense it shows something is wrong with the society, not with the individuals. If something was wrong with the individuals, suicide rate should have changed every year. Are you getting my point? If something is wrong with individuals, suicide rate should change every year. But if suicide rate is constant, that much amount of people only committing suicide out of 1 lakh, that means something is wrong with the society. So Durkheim used this figure, constant suicide rate, to explain this phenomena. That suicide is something that should not be reduced to the level of individual. Something is wrong with the society. What is wrong with the society? For that he developed one law also to tell us that force of industrialization and all those things have weakened the social cohesion. Okay. Now, the most important thing now which I'm going to tell you is, okay, which is very important for you before we give a conclusive finish to Durkheim and start off with Karl Marx. It is important for us to clearly go through all the ideas as to what Durkheim was when he was talking about that topic. Was he positivist? Was he structural functionalist? Was he philosopher? Who was he? And why did he say those things? Okay, so that is also very important. If you remember, we have so far studied division of labor, social fact, and elementary forms of lesion. And suicide. Okay. When Durkheim wrote Division of Labor, okay, that was year 1892, and it was his PhD dissertation, and he was student of philosophy. That means sociology as a discipline had not yet gotten established at that point of time. So it was purely philosophical insights. Philosophical insights. And that is why you must have seen Durkheim talking a lot about morality. And philosophy, as you know, is all about morality, ethics only. That is why GS4 people think that, if I have philosophy optional, I have some advantage. Okay, इस तरह की thinking हो जाती है, morality, ethics की बात करते रहते हैं सारा time. Okay. So here you know very well, there is no scientific method. Is there any scientific method here? Did he collect any data on traditional society or that modern complex society? No, no data collected. No classification. ऐसी मन से ही अपना बना दिया ट्रेडिशनल ऐसा होगा, उसके ऐसे फीचर्स होंगे. घर बैठ के आप मान लो कि टास्क आपको स्कूल में प्रोजेक्ट नहीं मिलता है कि बना के लाओ, तो आप बनवा लेते हो अपने दोस्त से. वही उसने किया था, स्टूडेंट था यार वो. At that point of time, Durkheim was student. How can you expect him to think or to talk like a philosopher? It was just as, although his theory actually, the division of labor actually established a model in sociology which could be used and which have been used by many people. Okay, and remember, whether you are a natural scientist or a social scientist, economist, philosopher, all the people gauge reality through models only. Nobody have absolute idea of reality. All of them develop models. So this was also one model. Okay. Now, when you talk about social fact, when Durkheim talks about social fact, remember that this was specifically made or written by a sociologist. And the book name was also Rules of Sociological Method. So it was sociologist Durkheim, not a philosopher Durkheim, a sociologist Durkheim who sociological method who had written this book. And if you remember the content of this book, he wanted to tell us that we individuals do not exist. Remember, we individuals do not exist. Collective thing belief, acting. All these things are external to us, coercive on us. Social facts, this is what social fact is. Whether you talk about family, state, nation, caste, these things control us. We are no one. We are governed by external forces. We simply react to this external stimuli. Just like plant would react to external stimuli of light or water growth. Similarly, we would react to gender. According to gender, we would make our choices. According to caste, we will make our choices. According to nation or family, we will make our choices. We do not have anything of our own. Okay, we are governed by these forces. Okay, शादी करो मेरे से, नहीं हो पाएगा. क्यों? फैमिली वाले नहीं मानेंगे. क्यों नहीं मानेंगे? कास्ट का चक्कर है. अब ये these things are controlling us. Okay, family is over and above you, caste is over and above you, religion हमारा अलग है, religion is over and above you. अच्छा, हम अलग शहर के भी हैं, ठीक है, चलो. रीजन इज ऑल्सो ओवर एंड अबव यू, हम अलग देश के भी हैं. नेशन इज ओवर एंड अबव यू, यू कैन नॉट कंट्रोल एनीथिंग. ठीक है. व्हेन ही wrote this book, the essence of this book was to tell us that natural science methods can be applied to social science or social world. How can they be applied to social world? Because we are just like atoms, we are governed by forces. Okay, and in this book he simply laid out what laid out? Rules of the sociological method. What is that method? The method would be same as is being practiced in the natural science. That method, how do we apply the same natural scientific method in the study of social world? Which means it is a clear reflection of positivist Durkheim. Of course, sociologist he is. A clear reflection of positivist Durkheim. A Durkheim who has clearly started believing, just like on the lines of natural scientist, atoms are governed by forces. He has also started believing we are governed by forces. He's talking just like a scientist now. He's a positivist sociologist, not just a sociologist now. Okay, he's a positivist sociologist. And when he is speaking like a positivist sociologist, he is not able to demonstrate anything. He is not able to prove how can we apply natural science method to the study of social phenomena. He is simply telling us, remember, we should be very careful about certain rules. Whenever we apply this method to any study of any phenomena, you should always be careful about these 5 rules. He is telling to the future sociologist. Okay, he himself has not conducted any research. अभी बता रहा है बस वो दूसरों को. Rule number 1, treat social fact as things. Rid yourself of all the preconceived notions. Rule number 2, nothing is pathological. Okay, when you see the people of ISIS, don't call them bad or pathological. It is normal because terrorism is everywhere in all the countries. Why do you call them pathological? Normal social fact. Okay, so he is telling about rules. Okay, Arun? हाँ, इसलिए मैंने बोला क्योंकि तुमने कल बोला था टेररिज्म ये तो पैथोलॉजिकल है. नहीं है पैथोलॉजिकल. टेररिज्म इज प्रेजेंट एवरीवेयर. Nobody can be pathological that way. Okay, so he clearly laid out rules, a charter, basically I would say a charter on how to apply the method of natural science in the study of social phenomena. For that he wrote this book. Why did he write this book? And who was he when he was writing this book? Remember, Durkheim did not apply Scientific method, obviously, some of the hints you may get. There are many things. He's talking like scientist when he's studying religion. Okay, if you remember, I told you rule number one was applied. Remember? Treat social fact as thing. He applied it. Okay. Treated social fact as things. Rid himself of all the preconceived notions of biases. Rule number two, did he apply normal social fact? Yes, he applied. Okay. Rule number three, social types, classification. Yes, that is also done. The fact is, if you look into cause and function of social fact, that is also done. He also applied that rule. Rule explaining cause and function of social fact. Remember, he explained as function of religion. He also explained as cause of religion. The cause of social fact should be another social fact, and he said cause of religion is another social fact, collective effervescence. He said then we should also explain function of social fact. That also he did. Then why is he not a positivist sociologist when he is conducting study on religion? Because the last rule, okay, law, where he talks about law, okay, after comparison you should have a law. He did not have any law as such when he explained religion. He simply studied the practices, beliefs around something that people consider sacred to them. It was his endeavor, attempt to tell us that we should not be biased towards any religious practice, and anything can be religion. It was his attempt to tell us this. He did not want to develop any law out of it. Okay. But in the study of suicide, the last study that he did, in the elementary forms, he followed all the rules. Okay. Which rules? These rules. He followed all the rules except law formulation. Here, in the study of suicide, he followed again all the rules. Same rules he followed. With this time, he also developed law. This time he developed law also. Okay. The question is, did he treat social fact as thing? Suicide is a social fact. Okay. So instead of ridiculing suicide, someone's suicide, he is simply treating suicide as a social fact. Rid ourselves of the preconceived notions as to who is bad, who is responsible for his person's suicide. Simply treat suicide as a social fact. Let us not cry that he committed suicide. Let us not be happy that she committed suicide. Let us simply study suicide as a social phenomenon. Okay. Second rule. Rule of normal, differentiating between normal social fact and pathological. Okay, these are extra things that I'm doing because I want you to understand these things completely scientifically, not rote learn. Okay, although when you writing answer, no need to explain all these things, but these things should be known to you. Okay. Second rule, differentiating between normal social fact and pathological social fact. He clearly said suicide is a normal social fact. It happens everywhere in every country. There is nothing pathological about it. What is pathological? When you have increased suicide rate out of nowhere, suddenly, rapid suicide rate has suddenly increased, like for example in Bangalore. That is very pathological. Otherwise, suicide is normal thing. It happens everywhere. Okay. Third thing. Third was about classification, social types, formulation of social types in classification. Did he not formulate types, married, unmarried, single, or whatever you call it. According to religion also, Protestants, Catholics, okay, peacetime, wartime, these are social types. Okay, and then he further went into multivariate analysis also. Okay. Next rule was rule of explaining cause and function of social fact. Did he not tell us the cause of social fact? Remember, the cause of social fact is always another social fact. Now, if I ask you one question, what is the cause of suicide rate increase? What is the cause? This is social fact. What is the cause of this suicide rate increase? Integration, yes. Weakening of integration force. Integration force. What is the cause of the weakening of integration force? Social fact should be explained by another social fact only. What is the cause of weakening of integration force? ये कास्ट कहाँ से आ गया? Industrialization. Okay. So there is nothing in the hand of individuals. Would you ever say no? The cause is that this person Vijay, he killed her. ऐसे नहीं बोलते हम. We do not talk like this. Okay. We talk about larger forces responsible for the outcome, which is also a phenomena to be treated as a thing. Okay. So this was all about it. Durkheim is over. Tomorrow we are going to begin with Karl Marx, and handouts are also uploaded. You can go through them. Tomorrow, briefly, I will also tell you critique of Durkheim, hardly 15 minutes, and then switch to Karl Marx. Okay, thank you. Any doubt? I hope there is no doubt as such, but still you can ask if in case you have. Did he not reduce it to the level of individual while explaining types? No. He never talked about any one person. He talked about groups. Never reduced to the level of individuals. He's talking about married, single, groups. He's not talking about, Amitabh Bachchan or any specific individual like that, whether he's single or married. Okay. Sir, can and again explain why suicide? And again explain why suicide rate is constant. Why suicide rate is constant is something that was also a subject matter of inquiry to him. Okay. Why remains constant? Because something is wrong within the society. This was actually a proof to Durkheim. If suicide rate is constant now, it is giving him a signal that nothing is wrong with individuals. If anything was wrong with individuals, suicide rate would have changed also now, year by year. It is not changing. That is a clear signal as to something is wrong within the society. And what is that thing? Rapid social change. It could be, or if those countries have already had gone through rapid social change force, and after some years they have now achieved a stable position, and that is why they are in a constant status, or that is why suicide rate would be constant in that case. Okay. Pranav Sharma, so sir, don't we say material density and moral density lead to division of labor? Yes, we do say that. We do say that. In fact, later on, a division of labor has been published in 3 volumes, volume 1, 2, 3. So you will find that later on Durkheim, coming back to division of labor as a sociologist now. Okay, first he wrote division of labor as a philosopher, then he revised division of labor as a sociologist later on. And therefore, you will always find division of labor being called now as a social fact. Something that was published in 1895 in his book Social Fact. He revised the book Division of Labor 1892 one and called division of labor now also as a social fact. Okay, these things are happening, and these things will get more clear to you when I'll tell you about the criticism. Okay. Kapil Bhola, sir, can we say it is a totem that becomes sacred, and can totem be individual? Yes, of course. Right? Totem becomes sacred. But even if you do not see, totem is a physical object. Okay, physical object simply represents your collective beliefs. Okay, when you have collective gathering and strong belief, strong gathering and strong belief, your practice, collective practices are also there. Okay, and that symbol, whether it is a flag, whether it is one idol, whether it is any tree, whether it is anything like that, it is that symbol is only representative of the collective beliefs which have coalesced you into one unit, one whole unit. Okay, so that totem becomes highly sacred to you. Now that totem is not just a totem, in the sense it is highly sacred. It is not just a symbol, it is special symbol. Okay, and even if you do not have symbol, okay, in the sense, although I should not be talking about those things right now because that is something that I'll be dealing with when I teach you George Herbert Mead what are the things that can be considered as symbols. Does symbol have to be something that is visible? There are invisible symbols also which unite people. Okay, so I don't want to go into that right now. Kapil Bhola, sir. Keegan Patra, sir, did not understand fatalistic suicide. Fatalistic suicide. Fatalistic suicide is suicide committed by the people who are feeling highly controlled, highly regulated. Could be any couple who wants to get married to, but they are feeling highly controlled because of family issues or caste issues or religious issues. Okay. Could be a slave to a master who feels highly controlled. Could be a domestic aide who's coming to your house every day and she's, listening to abuses from you every day. ओके, हाईली कंट्रोल्ड. तुम्हारा पैसा काट दूंगी आज का, मैं तुम्हारा पैसा कट गया आज का, ठीक है, रोज रोज पैसा कट गया, उसको हफ्ते महीने के बाद उसको कुछ मिला ही नहीं, सुसाइड कर लिया उसने. ओके, why collecting data from police station was his values not? How come, Kurunesh? How come? When he is collecting data from police station, how come values influencing him? What is the source? When you start collecting data, you should always collect data not from Wikipedia. You should always collect data from official sources, NCRB, NSSO, National Family Health Survey, NFHS, or police stations. These are the official records. So there is no value as such. Rajshri Dehuri. Sir, did not get multivariate analysis, Protestant working class female wala example. Protestant working class female wala example. Protestant working class female versus Protestant working class male. If you try to see which committed more suicide, and if you figure out that it was Protestant working class female committing more suicide than Protestant working class male, it shows that female as a gender has been more influential. It is not about the Protestant identity or the class identity, rather it is the gender identity which is coming out as the bigger reason for someone to commit suicide. In the sense, social location largely influenced by the gender. Okay, it was done largely to understand which of these social forces influence that person to commit suicide. Rather, it is it because of religion? Is it because of his class position? Is it because of his age? Is it because of his gender? The fact is, in social world, you do not have people in isolation or to all these identities. We have mixed identities. We are Protestant also, male also, young also. Okay, so in order to get a perfect picture as to what is that one factor which is leading that person to commit suicide, he did this multivariate analysis. Got it, Rajshri? Chatra. The same industrialization by Durkheim was seen to strengthen collective consciousness due to interdependence. Remember, Chatra, industrialization has led to the rise of individualism. Division of labor is one source which can integrate us. But the fact is, individualism is definitely there according to Durkheim. And that is why suicide rate increase in the industrialized societies because of a lot of individualism. Division of labor does integrate us, but this integration is not going to be as strong as we had in the mechanical solidarity or in the pre-industrial era. This is something that Durkheim has clearly said also, that in the modern society, the force of integration is not going to be as strong as the force of integration that we had in the pre-industrial era, that is mechanical solidarity. Chaitra, clear? Pranav Sharma, got it, sir. Thank you very much. Meenakshi, sir, about structural functionalist Durkheim. Okay, structural functionalist Durkheim. बस अभी कर रहा हूँ मैं. If you remember, Meenakshi, if you remember, social facts. In social fact, there was one rule explaining cause and function of a social fact. Remember, cause and function of a social fact. This is a very important question. Thank you, Meenakshi, because I actually had forgotten to describe this. Okay, in the sense to help you in revising this. When you are talking about cause and function of social fact as one of the rule, what does it show? Structural function analysis, because structural functionalists talk about each institution having certain function in the maintenance of the system. Religion does have that function. What is that function of religion? Integrates us. Function of division of labor integrates us. And why he is so much fascinated by the idea of integration? Because he is concerned about the rise of individualism. Is he criticizing individualism? No. He was political liberal. Then what? The problem is that he was not able to understand what are those things which are going to integrate us, which are going to create social cohesion, because a lot of individualism has been developed with the rise of industrialization. We are concerned about only about me, I, paisa, my success, my achievement, my relation, my. Too much of my is going to break the social fabric or moral fabric of society. Okay. Clear, Meenakshi? Egan, thank you, sir. Adarsh Gupta, is suicide a coercive force and thus social fact only because social rate is constant? Yes. Is suicide a coercive force? Definitely. Suicide is not internal to me, in the sense Durkheim clearly said it is not because of these any mental disorders that you are committing suicide. It is because of the larger force of industrialization which has weakened integration force. Okay. You are concerned only about yourself. You are not talking to your friends, you are not talking to your mother or father. You have broken all the ties. And this is what is happening even to the students preparing for UPSC. Facebook off, Twitter off, Instagram off, कुछ तो नहीं करते हैं, of course. But the serious ones they do. They cut off from all the old ties. Okay. Sometimes they are victim of this own action. Mental frustration, disorder. They start losing any sight of hope, or something that I don't want to talk about right now, because कभी इसके ऊपर बात करेंगे बाद में. यात्रा. आदर्श, मैंने आंसर दिया कि मैं ये भूल गया, मैं समझ नहीं आया. सर, इज सुसाइड इज कोअर्सिव फोर्स? हाँ, वो तो डेफिनेटली है. ओके, बिकॉज you are committing suicide because of the larger force of weakening of integration, which in itself is the product of rapid industrialization. So that is why it is a coercive force. Chaitra, also marginalized group can fall under both fatalistic and anomic. Yes, Chaitra, in social world, these categories are not mutually exclusive. This is something that you will get to know when I will teach you criticism of Durkheim. When we read, remember one thing, when we read criticism of the thinker, we actually get to know about the thinker more clearly. Unless we criticize him, we do not really get the proper understanding. So that is why criticism is something that is going to help you not only to understand the weakness or weak areas in the writings of Durkheim, but also it will help you to have proper understanding of what Durkheim has actually spoken about. Kapil Bhola, can we say in case of multivariate analysis, we mix variables to get pictures? ED mixed variables to get picture? I did not understand this, Kapil. Dobara push lena. Chaitra, yes sir, thank you. Meenakshi, thank you. Adarsh Gupta, sir, can we say with respect to ISIS, independence, sovereignty is also a totem or just sacred? Yes, of course. What is totem? What is totem? Totem to them is that flag. Totem to them is that all get up. भाई टोटम है क्या? टोटम क्या है? एक मैप वो बना देंगे, they will make a map and they will tell you this is where our caliphate was, our caliphate span from this area to this area. This is totem, physical representation of their collective belief. What is sacred? The sacred is the idea of sovereignty. The idea of establishing caliphate is sacred to them. Simple. Okay, chalo. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.